Welcome back to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we bring you stories from around the world of people who have faced adversity, have overcome some major challenges, and have come back stronger. And I am here with my law partner, Dana Brooks, and we are so excited to introduce you today to Michele Blood, who has a story to tell. Dana, you heard Michele's story. What do you think of her?
Yeah, she's so interesting. Now, she's from Australia, so she's going to sound a little funny, not really. But she's gone through so much, and she was hurt. Now, she's already got a very positive energy, very positive spirit, but she got in a car crash. She was hurt really bad.
Major car accident.
Major.
Yeah.
And then she somehow learned the power of affirmations. And we hear about affirmations a lot. It's almost becoming, commonplace and sort of trite. It's all over your social media or whatever, but she has found the power of putting affirmations to song and words.
She's taken it to a whole new level. And she's speaking my language because I have been singing affirmations to myself and creating poetry that I read to myself every day. And so I've been doing this for years. And so I just was introduced to Michele just recently. And so I'm like, man, I love this.
Yeah.
Because now she's spreading that to the world, and I know that it works.
Yeah, you know it works because now I've gone into Jimmy's office before, and he'll have, it may be a chant, or it may be a gong type of a sound or something, but you explained it to me that you're dialing into vibrations.
Yeah, it's all about the frequency, it's all about the vibration. Well, that's what Michelle's going to talk about.
Okay.
She's going to talk about how it affects the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. So you're in for a treat. This is going to be awesome because not only is she a super interesting person, but she has practical advice for people, and she's going to offer an opportunity for you to actually take advantage of her materials for free. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, learn along with me.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to see the very first part of the interview with Michele Blood.
This is a difficult job, and the late nights are easier when you have the passion behind you about what you're doing it for. When you know that person needs you, it's easy to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure you're ready and prepared for the next day, right? Whatever it takes to win.
When you're creating a law firm, you want to have people on your team that have experience on the other side.
Right.
And that can make the critical difference between winning and losing a case.
Yes.
And the number one value that drives our law firm is compassion.
That's right.
So that's why when I hear you say that when you're a defense attorney, it hurts your heart to have to defend a case that you knew was a legitimate case, that makes me feel very good about the fact that you've come onto our team.
And our number two value is a passion for justice. And you staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning working hard for the clients is certainly evidence of that.
That's passion for justice.
Yes.
Go into trial, taking it all the way.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are introducing you to Michele Blood, an Australian rock star who got in a severe car crash and then had to heal herself, and healed herself through the power of song and affirmations. I can't wait for you to see this story. Stay tuned.
Michele, thank you so much for being with us today. It's such a pleasure to see you in person. I've read so much about you and listened to your music, and it's wonderful to see your shining face.
Lovely to see you too, Greg. Great to be here.
You're a motivational speaker now, and one of your main tenets is the positive affirmation. But your life hasn't always been that way. And let's talk a little bit about growing up. You're born and raised in Australia, a singer and songwriter. Tell me a little bit about life growing up, being on stage.
Yeah, it was interesting. Apparently I could sing before I could even speak properly. And so by the age of about 5, I ended up being on a children's television show, singing each week. And after that, I did a lot of different things, but I eventually got so many bands together, but eventually I got a great band together. And we toured around Australia pretty much nonstop. One stage, 7 years nonstop, no breaks. Because the thing is, in Australia, when you work so hard to get the gigs, you've got to take them when they come, because they would book us for like 6 months in advance. So if you said you couldn't do a gig, you would lose 6 months worth of gigs. And it's a really hard slog traveling around Australia. Lead singer, main songwriter, manager of the band. Eventually I got us with Time Warner. We got a great record company and started doing videos and touring with some really big bands like the Pretenders. I just read her book about being a pretender called Reckless. I'd recommend it, everyone. Chrissy Hine.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I mean, Chrissy's story is very, very different to mine, though. That's for sure. She was definitely into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I didn't allow the band to take drugs, or, they couldn't be in my band if they did that, because we had to play sometimes 6 hours a night. And everyone has to be in tune, That's how to run a successful business, like a rock and roll band as well. You all have to be in tune and in harmony, because if one person is out of tune, or they're not playing correctly, or they're out of it or something, the whole thing sounds like crap. So I was sometimes called the Till of the Hunt because I had to make sure that we were all disciplined. But anyway, that's pretty much my life. I left home when I was 15 to go and do what I love to do. And that's what I've been doing, but in a very, very different way these days. But growing up in Australia is pretty amazing. I mean, the beaches in Sydney are just crazy beautiful. I was a Cronulla girl, would go down to the beach and bathe and surf. It's Australians are great people. I'll go to Australia, visit.
What's on my bucket list, absolutely. and it's amazing, though, going back to the rock band that you were in, that here, I imagine this is the 80s, the height of the rock and roll lifestyle, but yet you're the clean cut and you're running it like a business. I mean, and you realized it for what it is. You're out there providing entertainment, and you want to put on the best possible show, which in future means they want to come back and see you more. And that's amazing that you didn't fall trap to that. But imagine, all this traveling you're doing, but in 1989, you had a very tragic incident happen in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was driving home with the truck driver from Brisbane to Sydney, which is a long drive.
They're all long drives in Australia.
They are. Because you've got to remember, Australia is as big as America, but we've only got I don't know now, there's probably about 28 million. But back then there was only 15 million people that lived in Australia. So the cities are far in between. I mean, to the extent when our band had to travel to, say, Mount Isa, which is out right in the outback, but they've got some pretty big gigs there. We would have to take our petrol in petrol cans because there weren't enough petrol stations, or gas stations, as you call them in America, to be able to get to, I mean, here you've got gas stations every couple of miles or more, But back then, if you ran out of gas, you were buggered. So there's a lot of things to think about and to do when you're traveling with your own band. And anyway, what happened was, the truck driver fell asleep when we actually hit Sydney. We just hit Sydney, and he fell asleep at the wheel. And as the passenger, I was crushed. The musical instruments and everything went into me. And I won't go through all the damage, but the damage was horrific. I was in the hospital for months and months and months, many, many long operations. It was, I'm the bionic woman. And I thank the doctors greatly for what they did. But there's one thing, when you go through any sort of, whether it's a physical thing, like you're physically ill or you've had a car accident like I did, whatever it is that has put you, it puts you into a state of such depression and negativity because of the fact that, particularly for me, because I didn't know if I was ever going to walk again properly or if I'd even get through and live. And as a performer, doing all my crazy stunts and cartwheels and God knows what else I did on stage as a dancer as well as a singer, that if I couldn't do that, if I couldn't do the whole 360 of what I do as an entertainer, that was extremely shocking to me. I was thinking more about not being able to do that than, living.
Yeah.
But something happened to me that changed my life and took me on a new trajectory that has allowed me to not only have healed my own body, which was practically, I was told, impossible that I'd ever walk again properly, but nothing could stop what was meant to happen. And so no matter what anyone's going through, you've got to remember that there are no accidents in life, so to speak. and that everything that happens to us, we can learn and grow and change. And I thought I'd be just, a singer songwriter for the rest of my life, even if I wasn't in a band. But I mean, I'm still making albums. I'm still doing that, but now the music's different, that's for sure. And what I teach with deep meditation and everything that has happened to me that helped me awaken to my true life's purpose, it's just absolutely still to this day miraculous to me how it all happened, because I'd always dreamt of traveling to many, many different countries and doing gigs everywhere. And I had no idea it would end up being working on the stage and sharing the stage with Bob Proctor and Deepak Chopra and Jack Canfield. So I ended up traveling all over the world with another bunch of boys, but these ones were all metaphysical, transformational speakers and authors. So it was quite a 360 when you look at it. I was still able to utilize all the things that I'd experienced being an entertainer, but in a very, very different way that made every seminar I did more like a rock concert. So they're very entertaining if you guys ever want to come to one of my live events.
Well, Michele, we're going to talk about that transformation and what you learned and how you've used that to help others right after we come back from this commercial break.
I love the way she talks about her story in terms of it was an opportunity for her to learn and grow and change. She suffered.
Yeah,
it was terrible. And this is how life works, I feel like, Dana, is that we're going along on autopilot, just like she was just traveling all over Australia, performing one performance after the other. But then there was a pattern disruption, right? This crash, it completely disrupted her pattern. And that was what she ultimately needed to be able to level up.
Yeah, and I like that she talks about the power that she found in deep meditation.
Yeah.
The centeredness. That's a big thing for you. Say more about what you get out of that, and what do you think that helps people who have had a major pattern disruption like that?
Well, we go through our lives and we're constantly busy. Every moment of every day, we're constantly filling it with social media or the TV or a conversation with a friend. And so when you go into deep meditation, it gives you the time to really connect with the inner part of who you are, which is the most powerful part. And if you don't connect with that regularly, you can never become the highest and best version of yourself. And that's what ultimately changed me. When I went and started meditating, I started to really connect with the highest and best version of myself so I could become that higher and better version. And I think that changes people.
It has to. When I think of meditation, this is what I struggle so much with it, is I can't tune out everything. I can't sit alone with my thoughts. Something will creep in. Does setting the tones and the affirmations to music help at all, or is that a distraction from deep meditation?
Well, so there are various ways to do it, but when I had my most deep meditation experiences, it was doing the Om meditation where you're going Om.
The tones.
And I felt really weird doing it, but ultimately it led to a really deep, profound experience. But different people do it differently. But a lot of people like to start with the tones and then just sit in silence for a while.
Well, I love that you're so generous with what you know about it, and our guest is as well, so I can't wait.
Yeah, so we're going to go to another commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to hear the second part of the interview with Michele Blood. Stay tuned.
When you look at it, insurance, they work on algorithms. It's all a numbers game. At the end of the day, it's our job to make sure they understand that this is a change in circumstance. Something was stolen from somebody else. And at the end of the day, with our clients, the majority of the time, they did nothing wrong and they had to go through that. And that's the point. It's very important to make insurance companies understand our clients are not just numbers on a wall or some algorithm of an adjusted premium. That's not what this is. This is a life, right? That is substantially changed. And it's very important that they understand that.
Life comes down to a series of moments. Some moments are joyful, others are painful. But when somebody comes along and through their negligence takes away some of those joyful moments and replaces them with painful moments, then they've taken away something of value, something that our clients are never going to be able to get back. Our job is to make sure that they get fully compensated for that. Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where you're about to hear the second part of the interview with Michele Blood, an Australian rock star who got in a major car accident. And because of that car accident, it transformed her because she utilized the power of song and affirmation to heal herself. And now she's going around the world teaching the power of song and affirmation to everybody, to not just heal illnesses and to heal wounds, but also to make money, to live your highest and best life.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the second part.
Michele, I've read a lot of your bio, a lot of your history, and saw interviews, and you were laid up in the hospital bed. You said you were very, very badly injured, and you had a bad attitude. You mentioned, the depression, but you had an epiphany at some point of what the power of positive affirmation can do. Can you tell me a little bit about that moment when you realized that just positive thoughts can help bring you out?
This is amazing. I'd never even heard of an affirmation or a paradigm or anything like that. It wasn't, I wasn't in that world at all. I was always very pushed myself, always. So I knew I had good willpower to make things happen, but I never really thought about how I did it or how that happened, that my willpower could create so many things that I wanted to do. Everything I said I wanted to do ended up happening. But the difference is what happened was it's a long story I'll make very brief. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a well-known book that was written in the 1920s. And it was all about rich entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs in America. And that book changed my life. I listened to it on an audio. Somebody put it on. I couldn't turn it off. My aunt was putting all these people were bringing positive things to the hospital, and I couldn't move to read a book. So they would put on audio books. And the book itself didn't really turn me on, but the one chapter where Napoleon Hill was talking about using auto-suggestion to heal his little infant boy who was born completely deaf, to heal him and give him hearing again. And there was something within me that just clicked. When you just get it in the marrow of your bone, what I've just heard is true. That can happen. I know it can happen. So he would go into the little infant boy's room every night for years and years. You hear perfectly. You're a strong young man. You're likable. You like, all these great affirmations. And so he said, the trick is you've got to say it and emotionalize it, because if you don't believe it, it won't go into the treasury of your subconscious mind. And Napoleon Hill wrote this over 100 years ago, where they didn't have all the neuroscience studies that has proven that positive thinking, when emotionalized, really does heal. It creates healing in the body. It's amazing, the attitude. So I said, okay, I believe this. I know it. So I did an affirmation. I am healed, because I wasn't. I know I am. I didn't. I love myself. I am my friend. I was depressed. So none of those things were true. So I had a great affirmation, because you have to state it in the now as if it's already happened. And I was doing it over and over again, Greg, but it wasn't working. Affirmations have to be emotionalized. How can you emotionalize and believe something you're saying when you're in a hospital bed, or whatever the emotional challenges that you're going through, whether it's lack of money or whatever it is, if you don't believe it, if the circumstances around you are telling you the opposite?
Yes.
So that's when affirmations don't work, because the doubting mind shoots it out before it has a chance to, as he would lovely put, Napoleon, enter into the treasury of your subconscious mind, where once it's in there, it grows into a beautiful tree and things start manifesting in your life, not just healing in your body, but good things. So a few weeks later, I just had an epiphany. This was the moment. You're a singer-songwriter, Michele. You can't get a jingle or a song out of your head. I'd even written jingles over the years. I never told my band, because it was really good money, so I could use that to buy extra equipment, because it was a very uncool thing to write and sing jingles back in the day, if you're a rock singer.
But yeah, as you say, that's what the marketing agencies do. They create these jingles, the earworms that stick in your head.
It's there. They spend billions, advertising agencies, because they're smart. So I just said, I'll just get someone to go out and get me affirmation music. And I had people going out looking, and there wasn't any such thing as that. So I had the little recorder and I just said, give me a blank cassette, because I always had a little cassette player with me. So whenever I got a songwriting idea, I could sing it and wouldn't forget it. So I just started singing, I am healed, I know I am. I love myself, I am my friend. Started singing it over and over again. So I kept listening back. To make a long story short, I had miraculous healing in my attitude, in my body, everything. It was incredible. So I went on to magazines, music magazines, and a few television stations, found out about my healing, and promoters started coming out of the woodwork saying, we want you to tour with Deepak Chopra and sing your affirmations in between these people. And then I started working with Bob Proctor, who I worked with for 8 years. We created many products together, the late and great Bob Proctor. And I ended up writing and recording over 400 different affirmation songs for every area you can possibly imagine. Never had an idea about selling them until these promoters said, and you can sell your music, the affirmation music, at the back of the room. And I was like, what? I never heard of such a thing. The first gig I go to with Dr. Wayne Dyer, Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Tony Alessandra, Stuart Wilde, and I'm singing in between them. And at dinner that night, they all said, this was amazing. The affirmations, we put the lyrics right up on a big screen. So that's how it all started. I ended up working in over 26 countries. My biggest audience was 50,000 people. And now I teach it all over the world. And I teach deep meditation as well, because I went on to find an enlightened teacher. And I went off the grid for 10 years, Greg, studying with her, until eventually I had my own awakening. So now I teach people. I like to start with the affirmation music, because the affirmation music works 300 times faster, it's been proven, than just saying an affirmation. The left side of the brain is the lyrics, the affirmation. The right side of the brain is the melody and the music. So you have a whole brain experience.
Yeah, you're not just affecting half.
You can't get them out of your head. And that's why millions of people all over the world have been using my affirmation music. So it's really, really fun. And one of my favorite affirmation songs was Magnet to Money that I did. And we turned that into an app so people can have notifications and daily meditations and so many different things that you can do to have a whole brain experience. All you have to do is listen. You don't even have to like my voice or the music, but you will, because it's awesome.
You've got a Spotify page, you've got your own website. Tell us a little more how people can learn more and get your books or your app and everything like that.
I've got so many websites, I wouldn't know where to begin. So what I've done, just for your people, if we've got micheleblood.com/comebackstronger, and you will receive for absolutely free over $300 worth of online courses and books and music and videos, just for you to experiment for free.
That's
just
amazing.
To see for yourself. And there's, tabs up there to go to blogs or free videos or whatever you want from there. But if you just go to micheleblood.com/comebackstronger, you can come back stronger.
Michele, I want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your incredible story and for the wonderful gift you're giving our viewers. It is just amazing talking to you, and I hope to see you more in the future.
Thank you, Greg. It's been lovely to speak with you too. God bless you, everyone.
Not only a great story, but a way for people
Practical
to
advice.
practically to do it with, actually make it happen.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love a lot of things I heard. Okay. I love what she said about a bad attitude. I've got some people, I was a clinical social worker before I was a lawyer, and I've got some group of women that I mentor and then I go travel with and stuff. And one of them had a particularly hard time dating. And no matter who she met, she saw corrupt guys everywhere. And so she went deeply and thought about it. And she thought, I'm externalizing every problem I have in this regard. Let me think about it. And she came back and she goes, what the problem is? I got a bad attitude. She goes, I'm seeing exactly what I expect to see in this world. And so she got deep with the affirmations. She basically reprogrammed her thinking.
Yeah, that's what affirmations
her
do.
total orientations. You know more about it. When she said Wayne Dyer, I lit up because I studied him.
Yeah.
When she said Deepak Chopra, I know you're going, hey.
Oh yeah, man, she is singing my tune. Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, and then Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill, that's
Think
your
and Grow
book.
Rich. I have read Think and Grow Rich at least 100 times.
Yes.
And I can tell, and The Power of Affirmations is an entire chapter there. But I can tell you one thing, if if you are ever going to do anything to change your life, it's reprogram your mind with the power of affirmations. But I love the fact that she's putting it to song and putting it to music.
Makes it easier.
I put mine to poetry. I use poetry, but I repeat it. But you gotta put emotion with it.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So that's the music makes it more
does that
emotional.
mean? Put emotion with it.
But well, like for example, when you feel something, when you feel something, and so if you can jazz yourself up into the feeling of having already achieved what you desire, then you are actually tuning into receiving that desire. That's the key. Anyway, we're going to go to another commercial break, but when we come back, we got a lot more to talk about, so stay tuned.
This is about Carrie. It says, "There's not enough space, nor could I find enough words to articulate my experience with Fasig Brooks. Working closely with Carrie and Brittany has literally changed my life. Not only did they handle my case as if they were standing up for their own immediate family, we became like family. I've never felt alone in the process. I never felt like just another case, and the encouragement on the harder days would always lift me up. Absolutely everyone in the firm exudes a compassion for the cases they handle and a real passion to empower the lives of individuals and families far beyond a settlement. They are strong, resilient, will leave no rock unturned. I absolutely love Fasig Brooks."
I love that. I mean, I just have no words to explain how grateful I am that somebody feels like that about us.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we just heard the two-part interview of Michele Blood, an Australian rock star who crashed, got in a car crash, got severely injured, and then used the power of song and affirmations to heal herself. And now she's traveling around the world talking with Deepak Chopra, and she's Bob Proctor and all these famous people about the power of song and affirmation. So what I loved about it is how she talked about basically reprogramming your mind, because it's the thoughts, and it's kind of like what you said, the thoughts. Man, we are running out of time.
There's too much to
We're
talk
running
about
out of
on
time,
this.
yes.
No, the thoughts are self-defeating. You've always told me this. Self-defeating programming is what's holding us back.
Or self-defeating programming holds us back, but powerful affirmations move us forward. So we have so much more to talk about. We would love to see you back next week. We'd love to see you back next week, because we're going to bring you another story of someone who's come back stronger.
So many times, a lot of what we can do is help people regain their mobility. One of the most rewarding things I've ever done was I had a client who was dying. He had a terminal illness. That was the problem. He had a test result that said, hey, pay attention. It was sitting in a file for 17 months. By the time somebody found it, it's too late. So he knows he's dying. But he also knows he has a certain amount of money available to him. He had grandchildren in England he'd never seen. And so he spent most of his time in the air going back and forth. He was just like, you gave me the best last months of my life.
Wow. One thing that you could do for him is give him the freedom through having a settlement, that he was able to do what he wanted during that last year or 6 months of his life.
And he died in peace because his wife was taken care of.
That is such a big deal.
Yeah.